A very good day to all of you. So it is the noun phrase that we will be doing today. Noun phrase is a group of words which has noun as its head. It is the head. The noun phrase comprises the head and the other components. So it is the head that dictates concord and other congruence with the rest of the sentence. So as we see in this picture, with two examples over here, the pretty girl standing in the corner. So the girl here is the head. The noun phrase is the pretty girl. The pretty girls, the second sentence. So what I mean by concord is the agreement of agreement between the subject and the verb. So in the first case we have a singular subject, a singular noun, and in the second case we have girls, that is the plural noun. So accordingly there is a change in verb in both the sentences. The pretty girl standing in the corner is, the girl is singular, so we use is. In the second sentence, the term girls is plural, so we use are. So this is what is concord, and it also dictates the other types of congruence with the rest of the sentence outside the noun phrase. This is what the head does. So head is the main component in a noun phrase. And a head, besides the head in a noun phrase, we have other modifiers. We have the pre-modifiers and we have the post-modifiers. So whatever words that go before the head, they are the pre-modifiers, and those words that go after the head, they are the post-modifiers. More examples over here. He frightened the pretty girl standing in the corner. So standing in the corner is a post-modifier, and the pretty girl, the pretty is the pre-modifier, but the is the determiner and pretty is the adjective. So we have pre-modification, which comprises all items placed before the head, notably adjectives and nouns. As you can see from this picture, two examples, the pretty girl and some pretty college girls. So all these are pre-modifiers because the head word is girl. So we have only the words only before the head. In the next case, we have a post-modification, which all those words which come after the head. So post-modification comprising all the items placed after the head, notably prepositional phrases, non-finite clauses and relative clauses. Of course, there are more post-modifiers, adjectives, adverbs, appositive clauses. By all these, they can modify the head word. So we'll be doing a pre-modification and post-modification within the noun phrase. And what are those structures that can come in place of pre-modification and in place of post-modification? That is what we are going to do during the course of this lecture. Now, here is a list of post-modifiers. We start with the post-modifiers first. So what are those items which can come under the head of post-modifiers? Like I already told you that relative clauses, examples of all these structures that can act as post-modifiers examples are given here in this picture. So the first is a relative clauses. Example is, did you see the girl who was sitting in the corner? So which girl? It was the girl who was sitting in the corner. Who was sitting in the corner is a relative clause. Who is a relative pronoun which refers back to the head word, the girl. Did you see the girl who was sitting in the corner? This is a relative clause. Relative clause always follows starts with a relative pronoun, which refers back to its antecedent, the head word noun. So this was the first one. The second post-modifier is a prepositional phrase. Did you see the girl in the corner? So here the prepositional phrase is in the corner, which is a post-modifier for the head girl. The who was goes away, and we just have in the corner, the girl in the corner. This is the prepositional phrase. And then we can have non-finite clauses equivalent to relative clauses, which can serve as post modifiers. Did you see the girl sitting in the corner? Sitting in the corner is an ing clause, which non-finite clause, which acts as a post modifier. Then we have appositive clauses. Now, apposition is when there are two noun phrases which refer to the same entity, the second one identifying the first noun phrase. Let's have a look at this example, the appositive clause. The fact that she is good looking is not the only reason why I'd like to meet her. So the fact is an abstract term, and the fact is that she is good looking. So they both are the same thing. So the fact that she is good looking is not the only reason why I'd like to meet her. So this is what is called an appositive clause. Next we have clauses of time, place, manner and reason that can act as post modifiers. We visited the house where Mozart stayed in 1789. Where is again adverbial of place. Then it can also be modified by adverbs. The way out is over there. And finally, adjectives. There's something odd about her. Normally, adjectives always precede the head, but here we have an adjective which follows the head word. So it can also act. So this acts here. It acts as a post modifier. Relative clauses. About relative clauses, they can be both. Their meaning can be both restrictive and non-restrictive, as we will see in this picture. The meaning of restrictive and non-restrictive. You see on the first, on the left side, the children, a king, a buttered toast, the books. They're just the noun phrases. But then on the second, in the second column, you see the B column. You see the children who live next door. Now this restricts which children? The children who live next door. Not all the children, not the children in general, but the children, only those children who live next door. A king of Denmark. Not all the kings, a king of Denmark. Hot buttered toast. The history books, not all the books, but the history books. So in each of the case, the modifier, it restricts the meaning of the children. It narrows the meaning of the noun phrase, the noun, the head word. So this is what is known as restrictive clause. And then there is also non-restrictive type of modifier which does not limit the noun in this way. Now let's have this couple of examples. There is a comparison between restrictive and non-restrictive clauses. Like we see here, children who learn, we have children who learn easily should start school as early as possible. So there is children who learn easily. That is, it restricts not all the children, but only those children who learn easily should start school as early as possible. Now, this is what is restrictive. In the second case, we have children. We have comma who learn easily should start school as early as possible. So here, who learn easily, it does not modify or it does not add any meaning to children. It is just a non-essential extra bit of information. So here we are talking about children in general. Not only those children who learn easily. And remember here we have two tone groups. There are two information groups. Unlike the first one where we had just one information group which was restrictive. So in the second case it is non-restrictive. So this is the difference between restrictive and non-restrictive clauses. Next, here we talk about we can see the type of relative pronouns that can be used for relative clauses: who, that, which, etc. Examples are: have you met anybody who has been to China? Have you met anybody that has been to China? The second example is there's still one thing which is not explained, that is not explained. So we can use both which and that, but we cannot use who over here because one thing is inanimate. Normally who can just be used with those items which are animate. Then, do you know the boy we met? Do you know the boy that we met? Do you know the boy who we met? Do you know the boy whom we met? All these relative pronouns, they refer back to the antecedent, the boy. So we can use all of them. That's the house I've bought. That's the house that I bought, and that's the house which I have bought. So this is the case of relative pronouns that can be used along with relative clauses. More about relative pronouns is the relative pronoun in the complement of a preposition. Do you know the boy your daughter writes to? That your daughter writes to, who your daughter writes to, whom your daughter writes to. All these things, they can be, all these structures can be used along with the noun phrase the boy. The second case, this is the house we wrote to you about, that we wrote to you about, which we wrote to you about which we wrote to you. This is a variety of structures which can which modify the head word the house, the head word house. And the next again we talk about non-restrictive relative clauses. I've already told you non-restrictive relative clauses. They are non-essential. They add non-essential information, and they do not identify. They do not refer back to the antecedent, that is the head word. The two examples over here is then he met Mary, who invited him to a party. And she invited him to a party. So this is in non-restrictive case. They can be converted into coordinate clauses. Then he met Mary and she invited him to a party. So we have then he met Mary, comma, who invited him to a party. This is a case of a non-restrictive relative clause. Here is John Smith, whom I mentioned the other day. Now here is John Smith. We have a semicolon. If we do not use a conjunction, we can use a semicolon for two coordinate clauses. So here is John Smith. I mentioned him the other day after the semicolon. Otherwise, we can have here is John Smith, whom I mentioned the other day. This is after the comma. So this is a non-restrictive relative clause. Then we can also have sentence relative clauses. That is, they are those clauses which do not refer back to any noun, any head, but instead they refer back to the entire sentence. The example is he admires Mrs. Brown, which surprises me. That is, admiring, it's not Mrs. Brown that is being post-modified, but it is the entire sentence, that is admiring Mrs. Brown. He admires Mrs. Brown, which surprises me, which I find strange. So these are the sentence relative clauses which do not refer back to any specific noun or head, but they are a comment on the entire clause that is before this clause, before this non-restrictive clause, before this sentence relative clause. Now, the second category of our post modifiers are the prepositional phrases as post modifiers. We have done relative clauses. Now we talk about prepositional phrases, which is the second category, which can act as post modifier for a noun, for a head word. So the example is this the road to Paris? To Paris is a prepositional phrase. We have the preposition plus the noun. So that is a prepositional phrase. We have a preposition plus the noun phrase or a noun. So we have to Paris, which is the prepositional phrase which modifies the head road. In the bracket it is given, is this the road that leads to Paris? More examples about prepositional phrases are here. The house beyond the church was for sale. So the prepositional phrase is beyond the church, and the head word is house. So the house beyond the church was for sale. His life after the war was rather dull. So life is the head word. After is a preposition. The war is the noun phrase. So after the war is a prepositional phrase that modifies the head word life. All passengers on board the ship had to pass a medical examination. So which passengers? All passengers on board the ship. On board the ship is the prepositional phrase that modifies passengers. And there is no cause for alarm. For alarm is again a prepositional phrase that modifies the head word cause. After this we come to the non-finite clauses, which can act as post modifiers. Non-finite clauses are ing clauses, the ed participles, and the to infinitive clauses. All these clauses, they can act as post modifiers to a head word. Examples are the people working in the factory asked for a pay increase last month. So which people? People working in the factory. We have an ing over here. Those people working in the factory asked for a pay increase last month. And the second sentence, when you enter, please hand your tickets to the man standing at the door. Which man? The man who is standing at the door. So instead of who is standing at the door or who were working in the factory, the people who were working in the factory or who is standing in the door, we just have an ing clause. The people working in the factory and the man standing at the door. This is the ing clause, non-finite clause, which can act as a post modifier. The third example is all articles belonging to the college must be returned. So articles is post modified by belonging to the college, an ing clause. Likewise, the head word can also be post modified by ed participle. Ed participles, the examples of ed participles are here. The question debated in parliament yesterday was about abortion laws. So which question? The question debated. In the previous ones, we had the ing clause, the man standing in the people working in the factory. And here we have the question debated. We have an ed participle. The question debated in parliament yesterday was about abortion laws. So we can have it the other way also. The question that was debated in the parliament. The only car repaired by that mechanic is mine. The only car repaired is again an ed participle. So this is the second way which noun finite clause which can post modify the head word, preceding head word. The third is the to infinitive clause which can post modify the head word. Examples are the question to be debated tomorrow is whether income tax should be increased. So to be debated tomorrow is an infinitive clause which post modifies, which modifies the head question, noun question. The next is the next train to arrive was from Chicago. So the next train to arrive is the infinitive clause. To arrive was from Chicago. Side by side, we also see that the head word is also pre-modified by the next train to arrive was from Chicago. John is the last person to cause trouble. Last person to cause trouble. All these are examples of two infinitive clauses. In many infinitive clauses, the head of the noun phrase stands in relation to the object of the prepositional object, to the infinitive verb. Here we have the best man to consult is Wilson, or the best man for you to consult is Wilson. So both these we can have both of these structures. Then we come to the fourth category that can act as post modifiers, which are the appositive clauses as post modifiers. Apposition, as I told you, we have two noun phrases side by side, and the second identifies or modifies the first one. It adds meaning to it. We can have example over here, and normally the first the noun phrase over here, the first noun phrase over here is an abstract item. So we can see the examples over here. The news that he was resigning his job proved to be incorrect. So the news is an abstract item. We have the news, and we have what was the news. That is the news that he was resigning proved to be incorrect. So we have two noun phrases over here. The news, which is post modified, that he was resigning, that is a noun clause. He was resigning, proved to be incorrect. So this is a case of appositive post modifier. So the next example is the police have been investigating a plot to kidnap a prominent diplomat. So here we have a plot as the head word to kidnap a prominent diplomat. Now we can form structures where we have subject complement. You can have a look at the two sentences that follow these. The news was that he was resigning his job. So we have the news is the subject. Then we have the be form of verb. That he was resigning is the complement. So we have an SPC structure over here. The plot is to kidnap a prominent diplomat. Again, we have the be verb. We have the SPC structure. So this is a case of appositive clauses as post modifiers. There's a difference between appositive clauses and relative clauses. In case, just have a look at this example, the news that was spreading proved to be incorrect. So that here is a relative, that was spreading here is a relative clause. It's not an appositive clause. The news that was spreading proved to be incorrect. That was spreading, it modifies the news. It does not tell, in the first case, the news that he was resigning his job. It tells what news? The news that he was resigning his job. So there's a difference between the two, the appositive clause and the relative clause. That in 3 is a relative pronoun, and it could be replaced by which. It acts as the subject of the clause, and that is a conjunction. So we have seen here appositive clauses as post modifiers. Now a few more examples about appositive clauses. The head of an appositive clause must be an abstract. This I already told you, an abstract term. Have a look in these examples. His wife tried to conceal the fact. The fact is an abstract term. And what was the fact? That he was seriously ill. So here we have a case of apposition. We have a noun, the fact, and what was the fact? That he was seriously ill. So these two are in apposition, and the fact is an abstract term. The second example, we were delighted at the news that our team had won. So news again is an abstract term, and the team has won is what is the news. So they both refer to the same entity. So these are the examples of appositive clauses. Now there are other types of nominal clauses, interrogative and ing clauses, which can also act as appositive clauses. Examples are: he made the mistake of attracting a neutral country, attacking a neutral country. So mistake and attacking a neutral country, they are the same thing. So this is again an example of ing clause. And the second is: we shall soon have to face the annual problem of what to give Aunt Matilda. So this is again, the problem is what to give. This problem which they face every year. So this is their annual problem. So as we have restrictive and non-restrictive and relative clauses, likewise we also have restrictive and non-restrictive in apposition. Again, in restrictive apposition, so now this picture shows that gives examples of non-restrictive appositive clauses. His main argument that scientific laws have no exceptions was considered absurd. Now here they do not refer to the same thing. Here that scientific laws, the second noun phrase, it is not essential to identify the first one. It is just an additional information which is not all that essential. The second example over here is: his last appeal for his son to visit him was never delivered. So this is again an example of non-restrictive appositive clause. These are all clauses which are non-essential, which do not identify, which are not essential in identifying the previous noun phrase. She suffered from a common misfortune of women at the time, that is having too much time and too little money. We'll soon have to face the annual problem, what to give Aunt Matilda for her birthday. So all these types are examples of non-restrictive appositive clauses. Again, we have examples of restrictive and non-restrictive appositive clauses. The difference between restrictive and non-restrictive appositive clauses. I already also told you that when it is the case of non-restrictive apposition, the two noun phrases they go into different tone groups. That is, we have two information groups instead of one. So which says that the other noun phrase is not linked to the first one. It is just an additional or extra information which should go in another tone unit, which should have another tone unit or another information unit. So we can say we have examples over here. Which Mr. Smith do you mean? Mr. Smith the architect or Mr. Smith the electrician? They're all restrictive. Mr. Smith, the electrician, one tone unit. The difference between non-restrictive is I want to speak to Mr. Smith, comma, the electrician. Now we have two tone units. We have two pieces of information units. We have two information units. So this is the case of a non-restrictive apposition. More examples of apposition restrictive. Restrictive apposition is commonly, especially when the first element defines the meaning of the second element. The famous critic Paul Jones, the number 3, my good friend Bob, all these are examples of restrictive apposition. Now, the fifth category, we have clauses of time, place, and manner, and reason, which can act as post modifiers for the head word, a noun. Finite clauses introduced by a WH word. Let's take the time clause first. He's always talking about the years when he was a student. The years is modified which years when he was a student. So the years is modified by this adverbial clause when he was a student. Similarly, we can have for the place. We visited the house where Beethoven was born. Which house? We visited that house. We visited the house where. So we visited that place where Beethoven was born. Reason, is that the reason why you come? So this is for reason. Just as we had WH as the clauses, we can also have it with that or zero. The examples are time. It's about time that you had a holiday. So that is optional. It is in the brackets. So that is optional. And the place, I'll show you the place that we stayed at last year. Manner, I like the way that she does her hair. This is again informal. Reason, the reason I came was to ask your forgiveness. Again, that is in the bracket, which shows that that is optional. We can have that, or we can have the sentences without that. The third case is the two infinitive clauses. Also this time, place, and manner. It will soon be time to leave. Time to leave. The time is post modified by to leave. A good place to stay at is the White House. Place to stay at is the White House. That's not the way to make an omelette. Manner, the way. So our next category of post modifiers is the adverbs. So adverbs can also act post modify head word. So examples, as you can see in this picture, the road back was dense with traffic. It was actually the road which led back. So but we can just use the road back was dense with traffic. The second example is the people outside started to shout. So all these are examples of adverbs. Back, outside. The weather tomorrow will be cloudy. Sorry. So weather tomorrow will be cloudy. All these examples of adverbs. So adverbs can also act as post modifiers. Another category of post modifiers is the adjectives. It can also adjectives can also post modify the head. Adjectives normally pre-modify the noun phrase, but in a few cases they also act as post modifiers. They can post modify. The examples are there was something odd about his behavior. So odd modifies something. There was something odd about his behavior. In the next example, we have anyone keen on modern jazz should not miss this opportunity. So anyone is modified by keen on modern jazz, should not miss this opportunity. So we have this is an adjectival construction which acts as post modifier to anyone. So we have seen the list of post modifiers which can post modify the head phrase. We saw relative clauses, we saw prepositional phrases, we saw non-finite clauses, and we also did appositive clauses. We did the time time clauses, time, manner, time, place, manner, and reason clauses, and we saw the adverbs and adjectives. So these were all the post modifiers which can modify a head word noun. So in the next lecture we'll be talking about the pre-modifiers. There are a number of pre-modifiers which can modify the head word, which we'll be doing in the next lecture. Thank you very much.